commentary over it, which is not authenticated as well. So, and also, when you are searching something on Google, we are not able to understand what sources are missing or how he has given the response. Like, it's not based on our thinking, it's based on a keyboard which we have put it in there. So these are the major limitations of Google. The problem, if we open AI and we search a common phrase like role of human contact matrix in the spread of infectious disease, what AI tools can give you is it can give you a faster understanding. Like, it can give a small summary of what exactly these things are about. It can give you some keywords which are better.
Shining, the slides are shining. Maybe one light at the back. Sit on the fan also. Yeah, it's not too cold, right? Okay, thank you.
Okay, so in general, AI tools can give us a quick summary. It can give you better keywords which are related with it. It can give you some starter papers which are related with that your query. But again, what AI gives you is a summary of key ideas, a short list of well-known cited papers, very popular papers. It can give you reviews, usually reviews or classical paper on that subject. Also, if you are familiar with ChatGPT and you are using it, more often than not, it gives you answers which are not true in general. Like, if you are asking questions related to something which is not true in general, but it gives you answers hallucinating, which are not based on some evidence or literature. And also, it gives you incomplete citations, sometimes like a paper which don't usually exist. Again, what are the limitations of this is that we cannot know how he has given that paper, on what basis the inclusion and exclusion of a particular paper is done by the ChatGPT or any other AI tool. Results are not reproducible. If you fill in the same query again, it will give you a different way or different papers. Yeah. So if you want to do research, you want your research to be reproducible. So ChatGPT results are usually not reproducible.
Okay. By hallucination, you mean like we search in ChatGPT Apple. So Apple is iPhone or fruit. It will hallucinate.
No, I'm not saying about which device you are using. I'm generally
No. In ChatGPT, if you search for Apple, then in AI is trained like that. Hallucination means like it will think Apple and iPhone also and fruit also. Specify it whether you are searching for iPhone.
Yeah, that's true. But in general, when you are searching something, even it's not even just based. It tries to give you answer. It tries to justify you. That's what I'm saying. That's what I mean by hallucination.
I think just Pritesh, one more thing. Take your time. We have our time.
Okay.
So, and also they can ask. There should be a discussion.
Yeah, sure.
And we can say we cannot reproduce the search, but it is saved.
It is saved, but if you search with a different keyboard, it will give you different answers.
In different systems.
Yeah, in different systems. But in research, if you're talking about a topic, you need to understand where we started, what were the keywords. I will explain where to the later part of. His conclusion is different if you are thinking in the same parallels. If your starting point is similar.
Can I add something here? How many of you have done the literature review? Okay. And rest of you have never done literature review? I think each one of you have done literature review at some point of time, right? And have discussed on topics on it. Let's make this is a very, very important topic, and he has done tremendous amount of work in just one paper. It took many months for doing a good literature review. Now, why is the reproducibility that he's talking about is important? Who can answer that? Do you really, it's not the code, right? That you submitting it to the reviewer that someone wants to reproduce and see whether you have done the right coding or not, or modeling or not. But what about literature review? What does reproducibility means?
Like we are going through a paper, we find the paper, and we want to study, and we want to arrive at the same conclusions or measures which is described in the paper by ourselves.
Okay.
By coding and what things are there, coding and many things, graphs, results.
Do you do that? Have you done in any of your research work in the past? So, can you all hear what he said just now? He's saying that when you read, you come across many results, many information that you want to reproduce. Have you done that?
Yes.
Truly? Really? Have you go, so if you have read the introduction and there are 5 papers that they are referring, did you go back and look at those 5 papers to see if they are saying it correctly? Or you just take the introduction as if it is absolutely correct and go from there? You see the difference, what I am trying to say? So it is more than that part. That is possible and you can do it. If you want to reproduce someone's review of the literature, you can do that. But reproducibility here is used in literature review. When literature review, so there are lots of papers, they just happen to review on a certain topic, any topic, and they will review many papers and give the summary of how things have evolved in that particular topic in the past few years. That's the purpose of that review paper. But review papers has many steps in it. It involves not only the primary person who is doing the review, but also it has second and third reviewer as well, simultaneously, independently reviewing the same topic. And that's where the reproducibility play a very key role in that. You understand my point? It is called as a validation while you are reviewing the paper. And there is a big topic called a systematic literature review. That is, I think that is what he's trying to go to. But there are different types of review. But in systematic literature review, there are 2 or 3 people simultaneously reviewing the literature independently. They don't know each other. You understand my point? And so they come out with the review of the literature by their own. Then they have to match it. Then they have to match, all 3 people have to match and see how much they have reproduced it correctly. Does that make sense? And there is a measurement, there is a metrics to measure the matching. And if it is not matching, then why is it not matching? What is problem with this review versus this reviewer versus this reviewer in terms of a keyword searching? Does that make sense? So I don't want this what he's giving you, you take it as a formula. Okay, this is, but think a little bit broader. Think a little bit broader. Why do we do that? Why is it needed? I mean, these are big words, big loaded word. What does transparency means? It's not very clear. I mean, if I start asking some of you, you will not be able to, I will not be able to say on the spot what exactly transparency means until you give exact example of the transparency. Right? So ask question and make this as a discussion group rather than just one that he's giving a lecture. Okay. Yeah.
So we'll continue with these are things which are required in research, and if we don't do it, our conclusions can be biased, as sir discussed already. So our conclusions can be biased, and we don't want biasness in research. Okay, like if we search on a specific topic and you get some papers and you think this paper is better, this paper is not better, just on your liking and disliking, and we don't typically want that in research. Again, important studies may be overlooked. In ChatGPT or any other specific tools, you get papers highly based on popularity as sightings. There may be some important studies which are very new, which are very recent, which are not highly cited, but they are very important, and we don't want to miss that. So we don't want to overlook any of the again, the third point, as sir discussed, that results can also not be verified or tested. So how do we ensure that we don't miss important studies, we don't have any biasness towards any paper, and we maintain transparency? This motivates us to structure structured literature search. Okay, so since this conference is about in general for disease modeling, so structured literature review, how it can help in disease modeling. So if you want to identify what are the evidence gap or what are the literature gaps in specific topic, you can use this structural review technique, which I will explain in further slides, to understand that. Again, it can help us to inform how the different model structures are. Like the mixing is homogeneous, the models are network based, like categorizing different types of models structures. Again, this was something which sir was discussing last night as well. He was using the term meta-analysis. Like how can we compare what parameters for a specific system have been used by different authors and published them. So if you want to know like whether this parameter range or whether this parameter which some specific study has shown, whether it's true for a large set of papers, you can use systematic review to understand like what values this particular parameter have been taken in different literature sources. Again, it helps validation by comparing with prior evidence, and like evidence is already present in previous papers, and whatever you are searching for it, it helps us to validate our study. And transparency, as sir has discussed already, it gives you a transparency like what decisions, what is the background on which we have selected the papers, what is the background of our decision making.
What is the meaning of evidence? How many of you know what is evidence means? What is evidence means?
Proof of something that had happened.
Say it again.
Proof of something that had happened. That is it.
Proof
That
of
exists.
something. Okay. Is data and evidence the same thing? What is the difference? If not same. Or if same, then why is it same?
Data basically is like a secondary information that we get. We are not.
No, it could be primary data also, right? So it could be, by the way, she's using a word primary and secondary, which has a meaning in a research field. But let's say I'll explain that thing later. But data could be any. I mean, you can collect your actual data, so that could be primary data also. So then, what makes data different than evidence? Oh, it's a common word. We use it all the time, isn't it?
Yes.
So how difficult it is to come out with the meaning of it? It should not be, right? So tell me some ideas what comes to your mind when you think about evidence.
Like
We watch slide.
Okay, one at a time. So okay, go ahead.
when we conduct some kind
Louder so that everyone can see.
when we
But
conduct
yeah.
some kind of study on the data and we find it something. So maybe from only looking at the data, we may not see those results. So after that, we came to some conclusion. So another person thinking from another perspective
Yeah.
may get some clue
Yeah.
from that study
Okay.
to go in another direction.
Is that he's talking on this topic or some other topic? How many of you agree with that? Okay, go ahead. You were saying something.
Evidence is not something which we are lively involved, like general meaning of evidence and those things.
Yeah.
Something we are watching alive, live. Data is something that has been told by someone or like, based on their experience or something like that.
Sir,
Well,
data can be manipulated.
Say it again.
Data can be manipulated, but evidence cannot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sir, all collected data, WHO, maybe evidence data.
Okay. So that is what I'm asking. Which data is evidence and which data is not evidence?
So this data is authentic and trustworthy. Maybe
Well, yeah. So if there is a data and it is authentic, then it is called evidence. They should call it authentic data, right? I think he was telling it correctly in some sense. What he was trying to say is the data is just the numbers. It's just the numbers of multiple variables, right? It doesn't have an evidence until you extract some information that is useful for you. And so that evidence is extracted information from multiple data or variables, and you're combining them for your usefulness of your topic. That is evidence. And so there is a field in industry, it is called as real world evidence generation. Real world evidence generation. That means what do people do in real world, and they generate evidence of that. That's a very important field. RWE. RWE means real world evidence. This is if you want to look for a job after graduating, this is one field you can go. So their main job is to use the data, use the model to extract the information and generate evidence. Okay, so data is on this side, model is on the middle, evidence is on this side. Okay, so this is very important. So, many of these terms that we talk about, sometimes we assume that it is meaning, we understand the meaning, but it has a deeper understanding. And that is very key for us to understand. And also, my mother tongue is Hindi. So, I have learned the vocabulary in English over a period of time. So some of the words might be, I might be using it in a very casual sense. But in mathematics, in research, every word has a meaning. For example, how many of you have heard the word parameter estimation? Everyone? How many of you have heard the word calibration? Everyone? How many of you have heard the word inverse problem? Are these things different? How many of you have heard the word regularization? These are very similar words, but it has different meaning. Very, very different meaning. In mathematics, we use these words very commonly. But if I ask you guys the meaning of each one of them, I bet that we will come out with a clearer meaning of these words. You can see that these words synonymously used in the literature for finding and inputs of the model. But it has a very, very distinct meaning, different. So this would be your homework to find this 4 words meaning from the literature. Continue, actually, we have.
So then, what is the structured literature search? This is a very famous quote by Karl Popper. Karl Popper was basically an Austrian and British philosopher and one of the finest philosophers in the 21st century. And he said, science is not about finding answers, but asking questions in a way that allows relevant answers. So it's very much in line with what we are discussing here. It's not about finding answers all the time. It's about asking questions in a way that we get relevant answers. So, topic and you randomly put in some keywords on the Google or any AI tool, it will give you different results. So, what should be our search query? That's very important. And there's a predefined way to find different keywords for your search strategy. Then, we want to have a comprehensive identification of studies and then result in a set of potentially relevant studies, which like if you go on any AI tool, it will give you immediately potential like relevant papers. But from your point of view, what you want to actually calculate can be done in a very structured way. Okay, so let's go next. So this is a slide which talks about that how we can evaluate what we have found. There are reviews are also of different types which I will discuss in the next slide as well. But our talk is totally based on systematic review. So narrative review is usually what people do in if you have written a paper, as Sir was already discussing, anybody who has written a paper has done literature review. in some sort, because the initial introduction is about literature review, like what you have found, like from the previous studies. Yeah, but most of you, when you write a paper, we get the introduction paragraph, but we write about literature review is randomly from different papers, that this person has said this thing, this person has said this thing in continuation with this thing. Do you understand what I'm saying? And then we write, yeah, then we are searching for this thing. You understand? So this is a general narrative review, but people write it in a review format as well. So studies you studied, your studies that you select are at your author discussion. Like you like this study, it is relevant to your topic, or it is aligning with your ideas, and you select it. Interpretation may be subjective. It may be subjective to your taste. What kind of paper you like to read? There are always selective papers. Like if you go to any search agency and you find 10 papers, you will not read all the 10 papers. You will find some study which you like, which is in tone with your understanding. Do you understand? And again, methods, how we are doing it is not documented. We don't know why we selected this paper. Like if you have cited 10 papers in your introduction, that this is our literature based, you don't have a methodology to it. Systematic, on the other side, systematic review is clearly based on a predefined research question. It uses explicit inclusion and exclusion criteria. That's very important. This point is very important. When you are doing a systematic review search, your inclusion and exclusion criteria must be very clear. Like if you have choose one study, what's the reason for inclusion, and if you have excluded one study from the list of various studies, why you have excluded it. Okay, so it becomes very important. Your structure, your screening is structured and transparent, as sir has already told you. Usually in case of structured review search, there are more than one reviewers. With different keyboards, using different databases, they get different papers and their interpretation of the paper. And after that, what should happen is that your conclusion should be similar, or if they are not similar, there should be reasoning why they are not similar. Because you are using different databases, like if you know PubMed, LSR database, or even Web of Science, like there are thousands of papers from different dimensions and from different studies, right?
Have you guys used different databases, right? Can you name some? Can you name some what databases you have used? Anyone?
Search engine.
Scopus, Web of Science, PubMed,
Google Scholar,
Research Scholar, Google Solution, Google Scholars is also good.
ResearchGate.
But ResearchGate. But what about others? I mean, I don't know if it is trained in our classroom. Any classroom trains us that what databases are there, what are the strength of it. When do you use which database, by the way? I mean, there are many. If you go to the library web page, your library institute, there will be hundreds of databases. So which one to go for? That is what is, every database has its own strength, right? And that is very important. Which topic you are working on has a specific types of databases where one should look for. Okay. So these are, I mean, he's talking about it because we use certain, like Web of Science is one of the general ones but social science research is in a different database. PubMed is about medical database, primarily, medical related, right? So if you look at the other literature of the market, there is a different database. So mathematics, which database we use for mathematics? Science Direct is a good one. What else? MathSciNet, right? So there are different databases based on the topic that you are looking.
The last point is it follows in established reporting guidelines. Like the guidelines are already discussed, report already published. Like you have to follow a certain pattern. It's not like you start with searching the paper and skip the next part and go to the next part of text screening. Do you understand? Like when you look at the title, then you look at the abstract or methodology or whatever. So the reporting guidelines are already there. I will discuss in the next slide. So key takeaway is, like as we have already discussed on this topic, so systematic reviews provide us a transparent and reproducible synthesis of the literature, which is very important when you are doing research. Okay, so this is a brief overview. As sir has already discussed, there are different ways of like systematic reviews. There are systematic reviews which I will show Prisma. There is another which is scoping review. Scoping review is usually done when you want to know about the scope of something. Like if you want to know like how many studies are done in, for example, disease, role of media in disease. Okay, so scope of this literature, how wide it is. So this is usually done by scoping review. Meta-analysis, sir has already discussed this in our last night, that meta-analysis is usually for comparison between different studies in journal. Rapid reviews is, like sir was discussing, in the initial phase of virus, when you want to understand the reproductive number, you do it in a certain way. So rapid reviews are like when you want to know about it in a like quick way, like when there is something which is like if a pandemic is going on and there are certain set of papers which are in the initial phase, that for a quick review, this is a rapid review. It's again Prisma, but it has like adapted methods. And narrative reviews are usually what you do in your papers, like no formal reporting, like how you select the papers and things like that.
So hold on one second. So what is narrative review? Where do you use narrative review? Why, first of all? Do you guys use narrative review? Where do you use review for in your work in the past? Writing introduction, right? Say it again.
Finding research gap.
Research evidence gap, research gap, right? And that is narrative. There is no statistic. I mean, you might have statistics on certain things, but primarily the introduction is about narration. It's a narrative in the introduction, right? For that. But where do you do meta-analysis? Meta-analysis is used for what? Meta means multi, right? So you are using multiple studies to come out with an aggregated information on something, right? So for doing inputs of the parameters, I mean parameters of the model basically. Okay. So that's where. So there are different reasons why do you do it. Again, what he's showing is people publish reviews only, nothing about modeling. They're just about a review on a certain topic, and these are the different. But typically in your modeling work, you do these portion of different types of review in different parts of your manuscript or different part of your research. Like inputs, you need meta-analysis. For introduction, you need narrative. Do you understand what I'm saying? So there is, behind the scene, you are using all these reviews indirectly. Although you are not doing it in a very systematic way. Word systematic is what he will talking about and describing, and therefore you have to know all these things before you go about doing it. Do you go over the Ryan also?
Yeah. How would you
Yes.
it?
Yes.
Okay, so I was earlier discussing about the framework Prisma. So basically, as sir was discussing, so this problem was discussed by researchers, especially in medical field, that like different people are reporting different things. So why do we create a sort of systematic thing by which our conclusions are some evidence based? So I think it started back in 2009, and its recent version is 2020, as far as I know. So a group of 29 people, like 29 scientists and from various fields, decided to make a checklist in order to create a systematic review. Okay, so this is a checklist, and so this is a checklist of 29 items. I've included some of the things in this. So if you are performing a systematic review, so you have a title, a background of this, methodology, risk of bias, results, and these are different sections. Like you have to report this in a certain format. It's not like you can report it in any format that you like. Okay, so it's a checklist of like various things. Like these are the steps you need to follow if you are trying to do a systematic review search. Again, so there is a flow diagram which I'm showing the next slide. So there's a flow diagram which shows like how many studies or how many research papers were in a particular session, like when you started, how many searches that you get, and then how you reduced them to in the next step, and then how you reached to the number of studies that you look at, that you reviewed in the final stage. Okay, so again, Prisma doesn't tell you what to find, but it ensures that you clearly report how you find it. So there is no biasness in Prisma. Like it doesn't gives you like, oh, go to that conclusion. You know, it gives you methodology to reach at certain conclusion. This is a flow diagram of our paper which we have published with Sir, and in the identification stage, we used Web of Science, and thankfully at that time Web of Science was free, and now it's only subscription based, or if your institution is buying it. So at that time it was free, and we started like the identification. There were like 1,122 papers, and then we did this training, and we did this training for title and abstract for 760, and then eligibility for 107 paper. We literally did 107 paper. Full in the full text eligibility, and last we included 56 papers. There are other sources which we find, which is called gray literature. Gray literature is like when you are finding information on some topic, there can be results which are like somebody has a thesis to submit. Usually these search engines like databases like PubMed don't have like that published report, or some gourmet data, for example, like data from the meteorology department or in a journal. So these things you will not find in the PubMed or any other Web of Science you are using. If it is relevant to your study, we can include that as well in our thing. So it is called gray literature, and we identified 12 other papers from the gray literature which we used. So there are 4 steps which I have explained on the right side as well. First is the identification. Identification is done through databases. Then we have screening. Screening is like title and abstract. We like look at the title and the abstract based on our inclusion and exclusion criteria, which we have predefined, which I will explain again. And then based on our title and abstract screening, we have an eligibility criteria like this text, like these papers we want to full read it, and then based on this we want, like in the final slide, we want to like include, like these are the papers which we are including in our final studies. Anybody has any problem with these 4 categories, because these are very critical. 2 things which are very critical in as far as I understand in case of systematic review search is that your inclusion and exclusion criteria which should be very lucid, should be very clear. Do you understand? There should be no mixing between votes. It should be very clear to you like what study I am including and what basis. And these 4 steps, like how we have identified the studies, how the screening is done, what was the eligibility criteria again, like the background of it is, and what are the studies we included. And whenever you are doing a systematic review search, you have to give a flow diagram like this, and all the steps which you have followed, starting from the beginning to the publication to get it published.
Yeah, one more thing. So this diagram is not needed if you are quickly doing a short review for your getting an estimate of the parameter, or you are doing quick review for getting background information of your introduction, right, or evidence gap or research gap. There is no need to make this diagram. I mean, you can make it, but systematic review, as I was saying, it is done in a separate study. People don't do modeling and other things in that. It's only require reviewing papers of the literature on a certain topic, right? In that, you have to give, otherwise they will throw your paper right on from the desk. This diagram is so important to do that. It's called Prisma diagram, that is what he's referring to.
Good morning, sir. Good morning.
Okay, so there are 4 steps as you can see: identification, screening, eligibility, and inclusion. So I will go one by one how you can do it. So starting with identification. For identification, you can use multiple scientific databases like PubMed, Medline, Scopus, Web of Science, and Embase. Thankfully, PubMed is still without subscription based, so you can use PubMed now. But all the others, as I've already told, at my time, Web of Science was already like for free for all, but now it's not. All other are subscription based, so we can use by PubMed. I will show the example with the help of PubMed. So then we used structured keywords for control vocabulary, and as I already told you, grade literature is also important depending upon your study. You don't want to miss some important study which are like not published in an article sense. Do you understand what I'm saying?
So what is the example of the grade?
For example, if there is some report published by, not in the paper, by my methodology department or in general public health department of the government, they don't usually put it in a research paper format. So that's grade literature. Or like somebody has written a thesis, you will not find it on PubMed, and it can be very relevant to your study. So this is grade literature which you also want to include. Okay, so remove duplicates, I can show. Okay, so now the important thing is the way we started. I'm coming back to that thing. How we can search, like what keywords do we use, right? So there is a methodology to that as well. So it's called PICO or PICO. So P stands for like what we are studying. Like if you are doing research in animals, so P stands for population of animals. Like what is the individuals what you are studying? Do you understand? So secondly, it's the exposure. So what's the risk factor? Third is comparator. Like what you are comparing here, and fourth is outcome. What you want to study here. I can show you with the example of human infectious disease maybe in the next slide. What is PICO? So starting with like contact structure. If you remember, our question was like human contact networks, right? So what can be a keyword in contact structures, right? So keywords can be in contact structures can be like this. For example, contact networks. That's a keyword that when you want to know the contact structure, like if you remember in the initial slides I show you that this is what we are trying to find here. What is the role of human contact networks in the spread of infectious disease in a general sense? So contact networks, what can be the similar keywords to contact networks can be like social networks, contact patterns, temporal networks. These are things you can use as a keyword. Okay, again, what is our outcome? What are we trying to study? Is infectious disease transmission. This is a keyword. Infectious disease transmission. Disease spread. Right? This is another keyword. Outbreak dynamics. This is another keyword. And the important thing, population. What we are studying here is humans. Like or some people has included in the title as people or individuals. Now, before coming to query, depending upon which database, scientific database you are using, there are different ways to search and find it. Like, there's an important term which last lecture I was also discussing, it's called MESH, M-E-S-H. So, I will show on the database PubMed what MESH actually means. So, usually it's like, I explain to you this again because this is very important. These are four things, PECO, as I already told you. So, you can combine these four, like in this case we have three, but you can combine these with like contact structure or social network or contact pattern or temporal network. These are all similar things. Do you understand what I am saying? So we can combine these in the query with or. Like whether paper has mentioned this or this or this or this. I want all these studies. Are you getting what I am trying to say here? Another thing like infectious disease transmission. You want contact structure and infectious disease transmission, both in the paper, in the title or abstract, right? Because that's what we are studying. And population should be humans, like it can be in animals. We don't want to study at that point, because like what we are trying to search, right? So these three can be combined with and, like the general logic here which you are already aware of. So we can combine these with or, like contact structure, disease context, and population with and in between, like infectious disease transmission or disease spread or outbreak dynamics and humans or people or individuals. Do you understand what I am getting? So I will show you like an example. Just give me a moment. So, for example, I have already opened this. This is a PubMed. Okay. So let's start a fresh thing. So infectious disease transmission, like every word cannot be like every term which you are putting cannot be a mesh term. Mesh term is something which is specifically already devised by a scientific database, right? So this is like infectious disease transmission is a mesh term which is already found here. So when you put infectious disease transmission here, it means it will also include studies which are disease transmission or infectious transmission, or like the similar terms are already devised here. Do you understand what I am getting? Okay. So for the transmission it's and, then here is a add, as I have already told you. You want to add it with and or. So in our terms we want to add it with or, and. What we are studying here, humans, right? So we can see HUMA and is human a mesh term here? No, humans is not a mesh term. What about humans? Humans is a mesh term. Do you understand what I am saying here? So these humans will also include people, individuals, etc., etc. Right? This is way to refine your search.
Yeah, 1 minute. Where is this? Were you guys able to find the page he's on right now? Yeah, everyone knows it?
You can type my advanced search and you can get it.
Advanced.
Yeah. Sorry. So again, now we should. Oh no, I did it myself. So now when I write here humans, should I combine this with and or? Should I combine this with and or? What should we choose? And, because as I earlier discussed, we should combine it with and. The reason is, if I go back to my slide, yeah, here PECO, the keywords, contact structure. So we have one from the outcome, which is disease, like infectious disease transmission. The other one, population, humans. So we should combine this with and. Do you understand what I am trying to say here? Right? And then we want to have another key structure from contact structure, right? So it's not necessarily always that you use the mesh term all the time. You can use general, like from here, you can use title abstract, whether it's in title or abstract, like contract structure, for example. Contact mixing, yeah, contact in general. You can use any term, and we combine with and, right? And now if you want to like give similar keywords with contact, so maybe mixing, and we join it with and or. We should choose and or here, or, right? So this is a query box. Now there is no definite way that this is the keyword structure that you use. Depending upon your particular studies, and like you have to spend some time understanding this like keyword structure, like because it will give you search results, different search results depending upon different keyword structures, right? And you have to spend some time analyzing these kind of results, like how many papers it is giving. Papers are based on like which fields. Like if I search this one, for example, this is a query box, right? These are the query box which I did 2 days back or 1 day back. So if you search on it, so here we get 39,197 results. So these what papers are with this query box. Like you can change it, like if you want to do a recent, like what recently papers are published. So there is a 1 year, 5 year, right? And what you want to see here, like abstract is available on this site, or then you can choose the article type. When you meta-analysis, review, systematic review. If you are doing a systematic review, you should actually avoid taking systematic review, another systematic review, and like influencing your review. Do you understand what I am doing? Am I making sense?
Yes.
Right? So these are additional filters as well. Like you can explore by yourself, like species, sex, like lot of things. Like if it's this is specific to like clinical study, like clinical study done on humans. There will be a lot of papers which are here based on these query terms, which are clinical trials, right?
It could be even for the modeling work because you have gender
Yes.
in the HIV, for example.
Yeah.
So gender is used, even age group in the vaccination for models for vaccination, you need age group. So there are very specific, the studies you can find through that.
Again, there are other like preprints. Preprints, like I think you should be aware with this. Like when you send paper to a publication, you put it in a preprint in, for example, I'm sorry, I'm missing the word. Archive, bioarchive or archival journal. So preprint are not peer-reviewed, right? So it gives you option whether you want to include non-peer-reviewed studies in your search query or not, right? So this is the way. Again, since I have put it in a very loose term, you can again play with this. This is a very good way to play with different keywords and find different kind of results based on it, right? Like if I go back and show you what, like after doing like lot of searches again and again, this one, okay. This is
So these numbers of the results that are coming, is it there in your flowchart?
yeah, it is always in the flowchart. Yeah. So sorry, yeah, these numbers which are coming here, these are like you need to document them all in the flowchart. You have to show that this is the number of like studies in my ancient search, right? And then I will explain you like how to extract this. Like suppose based on your search you get a certain number, and then this is the way to extract the papers from this. It will not give you the whole document, but it will give you if you are using Web of Science, it also gives you options like whether you want to take the title only, whether you want to take the abstract only, and other things. But in general, if you can use it and like you can abstract, like there are different ways to abstract depending upon your taste. So like I use the citation manager because I will use the Ryan software. Ryan software is a very wonderful software. Like if you are reviewing, like if 3-4 reviewers are reviewing, there is a like software on which you can show, like which it can show you transparency. Like you can see it in a better way. So all results which are related to it, create file. So it will give you an NBIB file which is there. So this is the file. Okay. So our first step, again I will come to the my slides. This is the conclusion of our first lab. I have done only on SignWeb. You can use other sources as well, right, to get the papers. And from 2 or 3 sources, then we will aggregate and see like how many papers are there. And different sources can give the similar paper. So we don't want to like take similar paper from different sources, right? So then there are software like Zoitro. I can show you. This is another software. Here you can put papers from different sources and it will show you like which are repeated papers, right? And Ryan can also show that. I think Ryan has also a feature in it. So this is the completion of our first step. We have identified the database and extracted the paper from it. Now next step, we want to do the screening, right? Screening will be based on our eligibility criteria. So we have to define the eligibility criteria. So mesh I already explained to you, like some scientific databases have specific terms which are called mesh terms, which can help us to give better papers because the similar coding papers are included in that general term. Okay. So this is the same thing which we do, like save and export the results. At every point you need to like clearly take your query, like this query even like what we have done it. Yeah. So if you are publishing this thing, you have to mention the query itself in the paper that this was our search query, these were our keywords. Do you understand what I am saying? So it is transparency. Like every step you do, it's nothing hidden from anybody. Okay. So next step will be this is what we have saved. Like we can put citation manager. It gives usually in NBIB format. In Web of Science, because I used Web of Science, it gives you in CSV files. Like in CSV files, you get the title and abstract, publication, whatever you want to include. Like it gives you various options based on that. You can do the screening manually as well. Like if there are number of papers are less, you can manually see at the title and the abstract if you have like time to do it, right? If there are 700 papers, you define an inclusion and exclusion criteria and look at the title, like whether this is quoted by our study. If you are in doubt, look at the abstract. If you are still in doubt, maybe later. Keep that paper for maybe later. Like maybe later I will come to see whether I want to keep this paper for full text assessment. Full text assessment means like you read the paper fully, right? At least the more than the abstract and the title itself. Okay. So again, this thing is very important. As I'm saying from the first slide, the sort of things which you need to the publisher for a systematic review are the Prisma diagram which I have shown before, the query. The Prisma diagrams include this, like, again I will go to the Prisma diagram because I want to explain you this thing. Like these are the like 1132, like in our search query it likes 40,000 something like that. Do you understand? We need to refine it. But this is the first step. You need to show them that this is the number of studies which we get. Right? And if you are excluding, like we want to do in 5 years, and if you want to exclude, like Web of Science has also different options, like if you don't want to go to the study, because these results will be from various fields, like archaeology, even in general, right? If you don't want to do, like if you don't want to include paper from that field, because you think that that's not relevant to your study, so you have to mention properly that in this step, I have excluded papers from this study due to this reason. Do you understand? So this is exactly how it works. So this is inclusion exclusion criteria. For example, in our question which I was discussing from the start. So the inclusion criteria should be like we are talking about human populations here. Studies which are analyzing contact networks, contact patterns, social mixing, or contact matrices. This is what we want to study about, right? Then relevant to infectious disease, like this can be, the contact networks can be in general for any other subject related field as well, but we are specific to infectious disease modeling. So we want papers which are relevant to infectious disease or transmission modeling inputs. Again, for our inclusion criteria, we have included papers which are original research, like published papers, right? Not peer reviewed papers. Not peer reviewed papers, I'm sorry. Any relevant setting, like whether it's done, the study is done in a school or community or workplace or population level in general, right? Exclusion criteria, like as I was already discussing with you, we don't want to include studies which are based on animals, right? Articles which are discussing the spread of disease in animals, like contacts of animals. Do you understand? So we don't want to introduce that. When there is no human contact structure analyzed, we don't want it. Network, we want to explain what exactly network means. We don't want to, like this inclusion and exclusion criteria is depending on what you want, right? I'm just showing it by an example that in this case we can choose this. There is no like defined criteria that this should be inclusion criteria and this should be an exclusion criteria. It depends upon what your inclusion and exclusion criteria is based upon what you are trying to find. Am I making sense? Okay, so I will proceed further. No. The screening as I already told you, it can be done manually as well, but there is a beautiful software called Rhyme. I will show with Rhyme. So you can make an account, it's free of cost till now. Okay, so this is now, okay, so I will show by the example which we downloaded just now. So it's RAYYAN. You can download it. You can make an account in it, and then you can start using it. So okay. So here, this is how you can add new review to it. So create new review. So we are doing a new review. Here you can add the title in the initial case, whatever title you are putting here. Right? So for example, this is our title. What is your review tab? You are doing a systematic review or a literature review, it helps in general literature review as well. What is your domain? Do you want to specify some domain or you don't want to specify what is your domain? That's also there. And then you can give, it is an AI based app, so it gives you keywords which you can include or exclude. We will not go into that. Here is the thing which is the second step, which is screening, right? So it gives you option for the screening. I will take that. So this is first study which we have extracted just now from our keywords. So it gives social contact patterns relevant for infectious disease transmission in Cambodia, right? I didn't mention in the first slide that where do you want to conduct a study. If you want to conduct a study, you can add a keyboard in the initial slide, India, okay? So it will give you studies relevant to India. But since we have didn't do it, so it gives you studies around the world, right? So now here you can see the abstract, right? You can read the abstract. You can see the timeline. We can define the timeline earlier as well, or at this moment as well, when this study was conducted, and based on your inclusion/exclusion criteria, you want to include this study, you want to discard it, or you want to keep it for later, like you want to see it again, right? So if you click include, it will be included. Like I have included this study, right? Do you understand what? So it makes like if I open this. Like income inequality linked to infectious disease prevalence. If you know the title from my first slide, I think this is the study which we don't want to include in our search result, right? Because we want to see how mixing of human individuals help in disease spread, like infectious disease spread, right? This is about something related to income inequality. We don't want this in our selected paper, so we can discard it by like this, using this, right? So this is the software which helps you to like include, exclude, and once you are done with this, the selected papers, you can go to full text training of these, right? So I haven't like finished this thing, so this will not show the next step. But let's go on my slide again. So this is the screening process which I was showing you. So we will exclude study which are irrelevant to our search criteria. We want to apply our criteria consistently. Process is reviewing titles and abstract as I have shown you on the software. Classify as include, exclude, or maybe we see it later, right? As like tick for include, cross for exclude, and objection mark for whether we want to see it, give it a look again, right? Implementation is like screening performing manually by reviewers. As I told you, you can invite your reviewers on this and they can independently do it, and it shows like this is done by this, like this paper is selected by this reviewer or that reviewer. Do you understand? And as I've shown you, like it is quoted by line, and you can use maybe when you are unclear about it. Like if you read the title and abstract and you are unclear whether you want to include this or exclude it, this you can put it in. So at the end of the screening process, you are at a full text assessment. Like if I show from the previous slides, so this is the database which you get at the first step. You have done the title and abstract screening, and you read here like eligibility, like papers which you want to read for full text review. Do you understand? So from a large number of papers, you are reducing it to a small number of papers which you want to read full text for your research problem. Do you understand? So okay, this is very important. For like excluding or including a paper based on what you are trying to search, like what does this model inform? Okay, what I can extract from this paper. Do you understand? This is what should be post-process, like what should be going through your mind while selecting or disregarding a study. These are the questions that you should typically ask yourself, like why should I include this or why should I exclude this? Does it support or challenge my assumption? Like whatever your assumptions are initially, does it support it or challenge it? Can it help? Like whatever you are trying to find. Like in your case, we are trying to find social contact pattern in human transmission, right? So does it support that thing? I have shown a study which is irrelevant to it. So if it doesn't support our study, our objective, you should discard it, right? And is it relevant enough? If it's not relevant enough, maybe for a full text, so you put it in a maybe criteria. So these are the things which should go in the backdrop of your mind while selecting or discarding a particular study. And that is the next step, like fewer number of studies which you want to see the full text assessment. So the purpose should be confirmed whether screening studies meet inclusion criteria. Sometimes what happens is that title and abstracts, from the title and abstract you think this study is relevant to our query, our objective. But when you look at the full text, you understand the methodology or the process is different from what you want to it. You know, like the title and abstract shows the promising, But the full text assessment shows that no, this is something which he has done is not related to what we are searching for. We understand, and it happens very often. In full text assessment, it happens. Like in my case also, if I can show you from the previous slide, we have 107 plus 51, 107 studies which we did full text assessment, but 51 of those were not meeting our criteria, like what we want to expect from that paper. So this is implementation and outcome. Like this is again, we want to apply criteria rigorously. We want to reason. Again, I'm telling you, you need to document everything, why we have excluded something or included something. Because as we submitted paper with Anand sir, the reviewers asked us the exact number of papers from the starting point and why we excluded some papers and what were the key terms. Like as I told you, like which studies we didn't include it, every detail. Like there was a, if I will show you my paper, there is full page of like key terms which we exclude. Do you understand? Like around 30 pages of everything, why we exclude this, why we include this. So you need to be very transparent in this, and you need to document every step. So outcome is like we get a final set of studies which are inclusion for your inclusion, and based on these studies you can determine the answer to your search query. Like that for in our case, the search query you can. So yeah, this is the same thing. Yeah, so if you can do like meta-analysis after this as well. Yeah, answer the search questions similarly. I think combine evidence from individual studies. Yeah, this is something which is done after a full text assessment. So what we have learned today is from searching in general to searching evidence-based searching, which Sir was also focusing. So these are some of the software which we can use. I have shown you some. So for the identification purpose, as from the Prisma. Four major things. The identification for identification we can use PubMed, Wetlands, Scopus, Web Science, and this is like keywords. They are like depending on which one you are using. There are different keywords and vocabulary. Such like some are mesh terms, some have. For difference, like if you want to remove the duplicates, there is joint row and node. Mental, I think mental is something which is very popular if you are writing in text format. People use, and for screening there is RIAM and there are other as well like competence. I haven't used it, but yeah, these are another for screening purpose. Like it does similar to the RIAM software. Okay. Yeah, that's all about the systematic review search from my side.
Yeah. Thank you. Yogesh, I think we also want to see, and maybe when we come back later in the day, your papers so that you can see exactly what the outcome look like when you are done with this literature review, and how do you present it for the reviewer. That is very important. Another thing I want to point out, the reason he showed you the RIAM software, because it's a free, of course, at least the initial version. So you can use it for trial and error, and these tools, you don't, if you have not used it, these tools tremendously help your review process and speed up the process drastically. And initially you will find it a little like, you have to adjust to these new softwares, the way it is supposed to run, and so on and so forth. But once you do it one or two study, it will become obvious, and you will see how fast you do the review for your introduction. Google Scholar is nothing as compared to what these software can do. There is reason why people have spent so much time in developing these softwares. And also on the databases, there are coding in the databases also, like and, or. He has only showed you few things, but if you drop down menu, you were seeing there are thousands of other things that you can use it. And we are not really use it that much, so we are hardly able to, think about this. In today's world, if you do not know how to use chatbots, AI-based chatbots, you are illiterate, literally illiterate. It's so important right now. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to intelligently use it, right? You can't just use it as a black box, copy and paste. That's not what you can do. Dr. Anamika will be talking about this thing later on. But this is where it's very important you do review every day. If you are involved in the research, you do review every day. And these things drastically speed up the process. And that is what, and I think I've asked him to show his paper that is already published. He's a very good researcher and he has published many papers. But this paper in particularly is on literature review. And it took like, how many months it took for us to complete this?
In the initial phase, it took like 9 months.
9 months. Yeah, so 9 months for just completing the work of, and it is just reviewing the literature. Think about that. We think we are reviewing the literature and we get information in 1 hour or 2 hours. That's not possible. It took him 9 months. So there's lots of things you can do in this. The goal of this course is to expose you. There are things we cannot. I mean, think about each one of these topics that we are covering here in this course is meant for a whole semester long course. But we are trying to expose you so that, I mean, if you don't know, then what you will look for. If you know, at least you can look for it and get the information from other sources also. But exposing to the software is the need of the day, need of the time right now. So you need to know all these softwares. Okay.
This is one internet is not working.
Maybe we can do it later on actually.
So I'll finish just by telling you a little bit about my recent work. Sorry. Yeah. So this is the first paper which Anusar is already discussing. It's in the Journal of Math Bio, which is a very good journal in Math Bio. But ESG research is basically understanding the phenomenon of T-cell activation. We are looking like in the initial phase, like how T-cell decides like whether we should attack an antigen or not, and we are looking into various aspects of things. This is a protein structure, and one of paper is like we did comparative evaluation of the very paper, because like in the literature, as you sir was telling, with the meta-analysis we can see whether the parameter values, what different parameters values are taken. So there was a lot of papers which are published on mathematical aspect of like phenotypic papers which discuss T-cell activation, and they have taken different parametric values. So what I did is I take all the papers which are published in that purple lens and took all the parameters values which they are taking, and then based on what actually experimental results are. So I evaluate the mathematical paper with an experimental result. Like this mathematical paper can reproduce this experimental result or not. So this was my first paper and it's already published now in scientific reports. There is another paper which is on mechanochemistry. So it's a completely different field, like changing of energy landscape with the structure. Like with the structures, the energy landscape also changes, and it is in review right now in Royal Society of Open Science. It is in peer review. So I'm sidewise working on which I was discussing last night as well. I was working sidewise on human behavior change influencing COVID-19 dynamics, and we have luckily that data from Germany. It's called Cosmo data, and with the help of this, we are trying to we have different mathematical models, different set of mathematical models, and trying to predict like which fits the data well, right? So this is all about me, and this is the final message. Again, he is called the final. He's called the father of modern evidence-based medicine. So if you know, like when a medicine is prescribed, you do clinical trials, right? And one clinical trial shows that on this population, this medicine worked well. Then another clinical research shows this medicine on this population worked well. So this was the guy, he was earlier critical of this thing. He said like different people are doing research, clinical trials on different population set. Why don't we use it in a systematic way? Like why don't we use a guidance criteria which will like influence all the things, right? So although he was not part of like systematic Prisma guidelines or anything, but he was one of like his thought is something which is translated into devising these kind of things which you could do systematically, right? So this is like this is what he has done, and special thanks to my supervisor, master thesis supervisors, Sir Jayaprakash Tripathi and Ranu Mr. for guiding me throughout the process. Thank you all. Thank you for listening.
So thank you, Yogesh. It is really great to know all these things. And so what we will do is we will take a break. Merry Christmas to all of you. Today is December 25th. So there is something Dr. Tripathi has done for us, and we'll go out and see what he has done. And we'll come back, and we have also a very renowned professor that Dr. Chris will be joining us on talking about statistical modeling for disease aspects. And so it will be very relevant topic. We'll come back and hear what she has to say. But let's take a quick 10-15 minutes back, maybe 10 minutes. If there is a bigger